Good morning, everybody. It's Kristina Dennis, Transformational Self-Empowerment Master. Let me put this ready, ponytail back. I'm on my way to my gig that helps me move forward in my new work of sharing and bringing a certain lightness to some dark moments for people and just being there. I talked yesterday about forgiving my mother, and I am doing the research on that. And just to give you some context, my mom gave me up when she was 21. She had me and left me on the island of Malta with my grandmother. And my grandmother and grandfather decided to raise me as if I was their own child. And my grandmother became pregnant, I guess, a month after I was born, and had a daughter. And so being raised with my sister, when my grandparents had this serious difficulty accepting that I existed because I represented this huge betrayal to them, it was very obvious to me as a child that I was unwanted because I could see how they treated my younger sister. And it was very confusing to me because I didn't understand why. I didn't understand that in their minds, I was the reason that things had gone so wrong for them, that my mother's mistake and behavior was so shaming and damaging that they couldn't look at an innocent child in a loving way. And that was painful. And growing up in that home, I found this all out when I was 16. And this was 2 years after 2.5 years after my father died. And that father was my grandfather. And so really was a difficult, strange kind of beginning, living all over the world, looking like my mother, visiting her on occasion as my older sister, knowing that she had this weird thing with me. When we buried Gordon, the man who I thought was my father, the first 16 years of my life, she and my grandmother, who I thought was my mom, had weird conversations with me in the room. And it was just very unsettling. At the same time, when I found out the truth at 16, it also helped me understand that it wasn't necessarily so personal, that I didn't really have any options as a child, and it wasn't about my behavior or me as a person. It was a setup from the beginning. And it was painful. I was really, really angry. And I would have to say that moving forward, there have just been years and years of me reaching out and trying to get some support, get some help, and her rejecting, and really acting like she didn't have any responsibility. And at 50, I'd have to say that it doesn't hurt me as much. It's not something that I think about. Mother's Day is coming up this Sunday, and I do remember decades of Mother's Day being really weird. And now Mother's Day is a little sorted for me because of, well, I don't even know if that's true. For years, when Billy's diagnosis came and affected my life, there were years of sadness around Mother's Day because it just didn't feel like I had gotten what I deserved. Not that I don't deserve Billy. I love Billy. And it's so hard to say this stuff without sounding like I'm being despairing about Billy. But being a mother was incredibly difficult when you are dealing with a child who has been diagnosed with autism and can't speak, and his body's betraying himself. It's a really, it's a very dual edge. And so as Mother Day comes up, yesterday I declared that I thought I should forgive my mother. And today I started about how I do those kinds of things. Now, I have done 4 steps in a 12-step group. A 4th step is taking a moral inventory. and you talk about your resentments. And so I've written and written and written and written and written about Michaelin. That's my mother's name. And I've had relief, and there's still more. I think I mentioned yesterday that I had reached out to my mother, who is the estate person, or whatever you call it, the trustee of my grandmother's estate, asking about the dispensary of my grandparents' money. And my sole purpose was to do something for my son, to set him up. And her response was via an attorney, and basically she said, you have no rights, you are a grandchild. And I was so angry about that, because I thought, for years you denied my existence as your child, therefore being my grandparents' child, and now when it works for you, you want it to be the other way around, where I'm a grandchild and I have no rights. And it just didn't feel, and doesn't feel fair today as I'm saying it. So as I'm trying to work through it, I wanted to talk about why I would even try. Because chances are she's 71, and even though that's not old, she has shown through the last 50 years that she's not going to change her stance and how she has chosen to deal with her only biological child. And I am still angry about it. I'm angry that she didn't step up, not so much 49 years ago, because I can see and I can understand growing up in the same really abusive home, where she was not in a place to raise me and not in a place to be a mother, and did what she felt like was her only choice. And I can forgive that and let that go. I have a much harder time forgiving the way she has behaved the last 22 years since I have attempted multiple times to reach out to her, and always with the same ending, which is irrational and angry toward me and judgment of me. And that's painful. So why attempt to forgive at this point? We forgive so that we can be free. And everybody says, a lot of people say, resentments are like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. But that doesn't necessarily explain how to do it. Everybody says to forgive, and a lot of us want to shortcut the pain and not look at the source and not look at the injury. So we want to hurry up and bypass all of the spiritual work that has to happen. We want to hurry up and bypass the painful stuff and get to forgiveness. And that doesn't work either, because it's always there in some way. I definitely understand that my childhood brought me purpose. I definitely understand how God was always there for me, and how I have been blessed with hundreds, I'm not kidding, hundreds of women who have acted as a mother toward me. And I'm still angry and disappointed in my actual biological mother's behavior. And the truth of the matter is, I think she owes me. And that's kind of humbling and very human to say. But I do. I believe that she did very little for me in my life. And I wish that she would help me with my son's recovery and with setting him up for the future. But it doesn't appear she's going to. So what do I need to do? Well, yesterday I talked about how no one can take away your blessings, and how you have to forgive and move forward and be in a space where you understand that your birthright, that what God has intended for you can't be taken away by a human. So that's why I want to work on this hard stuff. So that's the first reason. 1, I want to be free. 2, I want to invite blessings into my life and into my son's life, and realize they are not dependent on Michaelin coming around. And 3, I believe that there will be some kind of healing emotionally and physically that I haven't had. I'm getting a phone call, so let me see if I can decline this because it just went away. Okay, so that was weird. I don't know if I lost any of that because I'm not familiar enough with Facebook and this camera. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on how to become free. And the reason why is not necessarily to have a relationship with Michael. She doesn't want one with me. It's so that I can be done with this anger and belief system that she owes me something. Whether she does or doesn't is not my business anymore. And so I'm going to continue to talk about this in real time. It is, a difficult subject to talk about, but maybe it'll help. And I know I have to admit that I'm still angry and admit that there was injury and admit that it hurts me and confuses me. But I have to move forward. And so today I'll spend 5 minutes praying for her. So the Course in Miracles talks about. So this will be day number 1. And I will work toward the idea that she is more than just the person who handled and continues to handle the situation very badly. And well, I don't think in just my opinion. I think most people would think, yeah, you're a schmuck. You're a schmuck, woman. So that's it. And I hope everybody has a beautiful day. And if there's stuff that you need to clean out, if there's spiritual cleaning, spring cleaning of emotions, if there's spiritual healing, hopefully my vulnerability and fortitude toward becoming whole and strong and free of this sadness and this anger will give you some courage to do the same too. So I'm doing this for me, and I'm doing this for my son, and I'm doing this for all the people that I want to bless. I want to remove this, and I don't know if I have the power to do it, but I can do my part. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.